Okay, guys, welcome. And my guest today is Hillary. And Hillary is an Enneagram coach, and she has a great YouTube channel. And I will put a link in this video to her YouTube channel. Hillary, welcome, and tell everybody what part of the world you live in.
Thank you, Tom. It's an honor to be on your channel. Thanks for inviting me. I live in Arizona.
Great.
So,
okay.
Yeah, and it's a bit, no one's going to feel sorry for me right now, but I'm going to say it's been really cold here lately. It's been in the 50s, so.
Right. And at the time of recording, we're February 2nd. Yeah, Groundhog Day.
Right. So.
Yeah. Awesome. I've been to Arizona. I've driven through it on the way to California, and but my home is in Daytona Beach. So, you and I have that in common. We have great winters.
Yes. I mean, I used to live in the Midwest. We moved here on purpose. We were like done with winters, done with the cold. We're like, no, I'd rather have a hot summer.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And, luckily in Florida, you guys that live up in the Midwest and come to Florida every, summer on vacation, summers are the worst time to be down here, and stay away from the center of the state, like Orlando. That's where it's like the oven, but on the beaches, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Hillary, I got a lot of good questions for you. Like, for example, first of all, how long have you been doing your YouTube channel?
That's a good question. I want to guess. I actually don't know this by fact, but I would say at least 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I started my YouTube channel, I'm guessing maybe 5 years ago. Yeah, that's what my guess would be. I haven't looked though. You know how you just are just going about life, and I'm like, I don't know. How long have I been doing it? Probably, and I originally got on YouTube because I first was a life coach, and then studied the Enneagram, became an Enneagram coach, and really realized that this platform is such an amazing way to meet people, to teach, to talk, to learn. And so I decided, okay, I'm a 9. I don't want to be on video. This is never something I intended, but I went ahead and just thought I'd try it.
Right. I'm glad you did. But right. Okay. So before that, were you doing life coaching appointments, just like what we typically think of as life coaching? Okay.
Yeah. I think I started life coaching around 7 years ago. I got certified through PCCI and got all the certifications, started life coaching, and realized it's tough for people to find me, right? I put my name out there on some feelers and stuff, and I had some clients and whatnot, but that's when before the next step would be, I decided that life coaching needed something. It needed something to go alongside it, right? Because as a coach, you don't really want to ask questions that they already know. Like there's some rules to it where you don't necessarily go backwards and ask about their past and all of that. But the Enneagram, something I had been using for, 10 years within myself and my family, I felt like, man, this could help kind of bridge that understanding of each other, understanding of my clients better and faster. So I went and got certified in that, and then married that into the coaching, and then started the YouTube channel as a way for people to find me. And coaching was definitely how I started. Just one-on-one coaching.
Wow. So that's so interesting. So you started as a life coach, and then I would imagine you're having appointments with people and thinking, this person's a 1.
Yes.
And I don't know if I can tell them that because they don't know this tool. Right.
Yes.
And you find yourself using the Enneagram without necessarily putting a spotlight on it.
Right. And they would not even know what I'm talking about. And then also I felt like the Enneagram could just kind of fast forward them of understanding themselves. Because a lot of times we would spend 4 or 5 sessions getting to something that we could have gotten to a lot faster had they understood their own motivations and things like that at the beginning. So to me, it just, it allowed for more time to work on the coaching part. Once we understood this is your personality. Okay, let's work within that and grow within that and stuff like that.
Yeah. Because people get stuck.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say at the time before the Enneagram life coaching, most people hired me because they were stuck, right? Because like the life coaching is we're moving forward. How do we get forward? How do we get clarity? How do we, and so a lot of people, even now, that is a big thing of people wanting somebody to hold them accountable, to ask the right questions, to see them, to listen to them, and then also help them get unstuck.
Yeah. Now you said you're a 9, and do you are there things about your own 9ness that bother you?
Oh my word. Absolutely. Okay. Not only do they bother me, but sometimes when I meet other 9s, I'm like put off by it. And I'm like, oh, because I struggle with that. So yeah, I would say sloth, the core weakness of the 9. A lot of times, especially 9s that hire me, they are confused that I'm able to do what I do and, show up to my own life, go after my own dreams and desires, right? And so they're always like, how do you do that? I'm like, okay, I have to be honest with you. Like every single day, it's a wrestle. Every day. And truthfully, the first couple of years of YouTube, I'm going to be honest with you, I wanted to quit every single day. It takes so much to show up in this space, to show up to my own life, and, to actually stay awake. And I would say that's one thing that has been hard for me. It's like constantly staying awake and doing it. And I don't know if, I'm sure you didn't notice this, but I'll go months without posting on YouTube because I'm just like, I'm getting lost in my own personality and, doing other things and staying busy, doing fun things that I think are fun versus doing the hard things. So I guess to wrap up that answer, absolutely, there are things about my personality that totally bother me, but it's just stuff I wrestle with, but I'm super grateful that I understand myself because I spent my first, I didn't really go after my dreams and desires until my mid-30s. And it really took me walking through my mom's death, a tragic situation, for me to wake up and realize that I was just going through the motions of life and I never really was awake to my own dreams and desires. And so that's probably what motivates me most now. It's like, once you're awake, it's hard to go back to sleep, right? And then also helping others, wake up maybe sooner than I did.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, because once you learn about the Enneagram, and probably a lot of people, they start with, oh, I'm a this, ha ha ha, or you're a that, and they don't get beyond a very surface level understanding of my type, my spouse's type, maybe a couple of my kids, and learn it as a system, because as a system, it's so much more valuable and useful and helpful. And I love what you said about every day a struggle, because it's not like we fix ourselves like, oh, well, I'm fixed now, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm all good. Nope.
Yeah, right. It's that daily observing yourself and catching yourself. And I like to say, even like laughing at yourself with that I am a 7, but I like to say, that sort of like tapping your head and saying, there I go again, a 7 focused on 7 things that may or may not help me in the long run move forward in life. Yes,
that's true. And same thing where it's a wrestle, where it's interesting because I actually have adult kids, a 20 and 22-year-old. They're both boys. And I made the mistake of telling my 20-year-old one of my goals for the year. And he every day asks me about it. And I'm like, stop. No, I didn't work on it today. No, I didn't. I feel like I'm letting him down. He's my 20-year-old type 5 son. And I'm just like, dang it, I shouldn't have told you. Because now I'm being held accountable,
Right. By somebody under your own roof.
I know. And he just looks at me. He'll just look at me very, like if I'm sitting on the couch, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I worked all day today. You weren't home. I worked all day, I'm like getting all defensive and stuff. But the thing is ultimately, I wrestle with this part of my personality, and for the most part, I'm able to stay, and it helps that, like, I know you're a coach also, that I have clients that I have to show up for most days. And so that definitely keeps me in alignment. But sometimes when I don't, I could just sit here and find really unnecessary things to be doing.
Yeah. I remember talking to a 9 recently, and she was 9 wing 8, and she had been a writer in the past, and she kind of, life had changed and she wasn't writing anymore. And she was wanting to like recover that part of her life again. And she said, Tom, I so desperately want to be a writer, but there's so much good TV on.
Oh, I totally feel that right here.
What would you say to other 9s who might be watching this? As a 9, and we would say a healthy 9, what would you say to some 9s out there?
Okay, this is what works for me as a 9. Each day, I make a list. In order to stay present to my own life that day, I have to make a list of maybe things that need to get done, or things I'd want to get done, or just even sometimes it just like, it says, walk the dog, right? Like it could be super simple all the way down to, film a video, whatever that looks like on the list. But as a 9s are able to fall asleep very easily if it's not in front of them. And I know this to be true for myself, where the TV's just in the other room in my house. I work out of my home, right? And I'm a huge sports fan. I'd rather be watching sports than other things, which is surprising, but that's, it allows me to just zone out. And so, but for the 9, I would say the list helps in the morning. And then the thing is I hate to say reward, but to me, I'm purposeful with making sure like 8 hours a day, I'm present to my life and doing what needs to get done, and whatever that is. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's meeting a friend for lunch, but I'm being present all day long. And then in the evening, I allow myself to fully sink into sloth. I literally, by around 5 p.m., I put on really comfy clothes. I get a blanket. I sit on my couch and I have some food and I watch some TV. And it's most evenings. But for me, in order to do that in the evenings, I want to, again, I don't want to say reward myself, because it's not necessarily reward, but that's what works for me as a 9, is to just make a list, stay present throughout the day. And I do not beat myself up if I don't get that list done. The goal is just to make the list. It doesn't matter how much gets done. I'm not going to, I can't be a 3, I go towards the 3, but it's not, it's not what motivates me. I wish sometimes that money motivated me, because I think I'd probably be a lot more successful. Right. But I'm like, it just doesn't. Right. And what motivates me is staying present to my life, staying awake, and helping others. And so it's just like having that process throughout the day. And then at night, and I'm a very, which this is not going to be surprising, but I like to do the same exact thing every single night. So, and that's what I do. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess what you're saying is, very balanced in that I'm pushing myself, but I'm also remembering that I am a 9.
Yeah.
And I want to stay in that peaceful place and not try to be someone I'm not, while always trying to improve. And, interestingly, like 7s and 9s, we both share some numbers in common, 1 and 8 and 6. And, and we essentially are don't worry, be happy.
I can reframe like the best of them.
Yeah, right. I always say, a 7 and a 9, I think of like, in my mind, probably the Dumb and Dumber guys are probably a 7 and a 9, and we could get along great. Like let's just go west and sell tacos.
Right.
And
right.
Who cares?
Right.
But we've got that. I've got that line to 1, and I always say like that number you disintegrate to. You kind of want to hear them as a warning, like that 1 saying, "Hey, 7, there's a lot of things that you're thinking about doing today, but what do you really need to be doing? Why don't you focus on that and agree to the list, or you'll end up feeling the anger and frustration and have to do it eventually anyway." So
that is so good.
Yeah.
And that's so true. Like you said, going towards the 1, right? And I mean, I go towards the 6, but it's the same thing. I might have anxiety. I might have, all of a sudden I might start to fear and think of worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
In my life and different things. And so for you going towards the 1, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
The
just really
for me is, so for you go towards the 1 in stress. And for me, it could be a wing, but I will say, to be honest, I only notice I use the 1 wing in unhealth, average to unhealth.
Yeah. Right.
I never get the good stuff.
Yeah. Well, do you see yourself as a 9 wing 8?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. And so 1, in my mind, 1 is like, let's get our list out. Let's write down what needs to be done, and let's not focus on the closet right now. Let's prioritize and get busy doing those big things first. And like you said, part of the reason that you are successful is you make yourself do that. Yeah.
Most days.
Yeah. Right.
When I don't, it doesn't go well. But yeah, it's more, and you brought up something so interesting, because you said instead of focusing on the closet, am I to understand right that you're saying like, I'm going to go do that project?
Yeah. You're going to do the other thing, like, those clothes. And it's like, you lost 5 hours rearranging your closet when AT&T needs to be fixed. Your bill. Yeah, right. Well, they sent an email. They sent an email and they said they'd get back to me, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I guess I'll just worry about that tomorrow.
Totally. Yeah. You literally just spoke into my life. I'm like, that feels overwhelming. And actually, people have noticed in my videos, especially like a few years ago, that my office was always changed. That was because for a few things. 1, it's, that's fun. It would give me such energy. It would just, all of a sudden it would, I'm like, I'm just going to rearrange everything, because then it'll be good. And then I can film, because filming was so hard and overwhelming. And people would go, wow, your office is always different. And I was like, that's not a healthy thing. Don't be like me in that, because I knew what I was doing. I've been able to catch myself now. And it stays the same now. I'm like, that's not a worry. That's not an actual issue. And then the other piece to it was I was comparing myself. I was like, I would get on, other people's YouTube channel and think mine was never good enough. And so, it was like that criticalness, the 1, that's what I'm saying. The 1, I would go over there and be like, it's just not good enough. I got to change it. So I struggled with that a lot early on. Now I stay in my lane. I'm like, nope. I always remember my why. Why do you do what you do? Stay in your lane. It's.
Yeah. And work making progress, but always. Yeah. Right. Okay, good. What have you learned from coaching so many people? like I said, a lot of people feel like they're stuck, but I guess what I'm asking is, okay, so we read the books, we listen to the videos, and we learn a lot about the Enneagram. And then we coach people and we learn things from conversations with people in a way maybe you don't learn it in the books. Has there been some things that you've learned along the way that have been just kind of that stand out to you, like from coaching so many people and having so many discussions with people about the Enneagram?
Yeah, I would say you're right, though. Like, you read the books and you study everything. I learn the most with people. I have a very curious nature. It's like a non-judgmental posture of curiosity. And I love just learning and listening. And I actually have had recently a couple of twos. They don't know each other, but they hired me. And twos, I don't know about you, because you could do coaching too. You do one-on-one coaching.
Oh yeah, a lot.
I don't get a lot of twos.
And my wife's a 2.
Is she?
30 years, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I get 2s. Okay.
See, and you get 2. So I have learned so much about 2s lately and my best friend's a 2. Both my sister-in-laws are 2. So I'm surrounded by a lot of 2s, and I notice patterns quicker, in 2s, and the healthy and the unhealthy and different things like that. Let's see, what else have I learned? A lot of 9s hire me, which makes sense, right? It makes sense. Nothing stands out.
And if something comes up while we're talking, interrupt me. When you watch TV, do you immediately start to figure out what their types are and then relate those lessons back to yourself? Okay.
Interesting enough. I don't think I do.
Really?
I think because I think I turn it completely off.
Oh.
Because I'm watching TV, I'm literally not, but my husband a lot of times will go, oh, what do you think so-and-so is? And then I feel like it's like I got to get back into that side of my brain. Oh. And I'm like, oh, I haven't been, I never ever am thinking about personalities and types when I'm watching television, unless, obviously it can happen organically, but for the most part, I'm zoned out. I'm a person that will watch TV and be on my phone at the same time. Yeah. Because I'll play games. I'm a pretty good 9 about numbing out. So I would say for me, unless somebody asks me, no, I don't necessarily start thinking about the type. That's why it's hard for me. I don't do videos on typing, shows and stuff, because I haven't ever spent a ton of time thinking about that. But What about you?
Oh yeah. My whole family, we're ridiculous. I mean, we turn something on and we'll pause it. And what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And my wife is just kind of sitting there, Yeah,
because your daughters are both Enneagram. Oh, they both have Enneagram channels.
Yeah. And so, so they'll go to church and they'll say, hey, I met this kid and da-da-da-da-da. And the first thing they'll say is they're probably a 3. And it's just a part of the perspective that we have here in our house. And we'll watch a show. And what happens is when we think we've got it nailed, when we think we've got that character nailed, we'll end up pausing it all the time, because they'll start laughing and say, oh my gosh, that's me. That's what I do. Or that's what I think, but I don't say it, So, yeah.
That is funny. That is very funny. Yeah. I could see that happening. I mean, sometimes say I'm watching something and what was I watching? I mean, this is weird, but I'm going to say I was watching basketball, and one of their good players, he to me seems like a 9. And I only recognize that because he's really good, but he's got this soft touch to them. This he's not very aggressive. And then everybody around me is like, oh, he needs to be aggressive. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, oh, he's probably a 9, and he's not going to be able to. Can someone be really good but not have to be so assertive and aggressive? So once in a while I will think about it, but I'll probably just have more compassion of oh, I feel so bad. I know.
What would you say to those people that say, what is this Enneagram thing? These personality profiles. I had an 8 one time who came on like this, they booked the appointment and they came on like this, and they said, okay, what is this Enneagram thing anyway? Blah, 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 blah. And I was thinking, okay. And what was funny though is within about 10 minutes, they turned off their screen because they were in tears. Oh. And we were just talking about 8 stuff and that vulnerability thing, But what would you say to people that, of course, the personality profiles, they just put people in boxes, and you guys, put a number on people, and they're just against it?
I've definitely come up against that. And the interesting thing is a lot of times I immediately know what type they probably are. So it doesn't bother me. I'm like, okay, I know what type you're probably. I was actually teaching, I was at a staff retreat where I was teaching them the Enneagram. And this one guy, he was very, like, you could tell he did not like that I was there. He didn't like that they were being taught that, whatever. But and this was like a few years ago. So I'm like,
Right.
okay, and it was probably I had only probably taught big groups like that a few times. So I'm more timid back then. And he looks at me because I think we were going around the room to say our type I don't remember the thing, but he looks at me and he goes, yeah, I'm a 45. And I think he like added them together or he did something.
Okay. Oh, because he like added up whatever.
He like added all the numbers or something and was like, I'm a 45, and like was kind of a jerk about it. And I just looked at him and I just was able to ask him like it didn't offend me personally, right? Because I'm like, well, the Enneagram's for anyone, but not everyone. I don't think it's not for everybody. Like, right? Yeah. Like there's other things that can help you. Do I think could help? Yes. And I think the fact that you're fighting it so much, there's, it probably could really help you. But I just would say, like, I don't get offended. It's like, then I would just start asking questions. Okay, so what do you know about the Enneagram? What do you understand it's about motivations? What do you think about motivations? Are there any other personality types you do know? Right. And it's like, kind of just start digging of like, do you have any knowledge on personality types? And then find out the root of their why. Why are you coming so aggressively towards this? I'm like, what hurt you? Who hurt you?
Yeah. Come here. Well, and also there may be sometimes like, well, these things are used by my boss to manipulate us into being more productive, and I'm like, well, that's not my agenda. That may be their agenda, but. Right.
And that's the thing, like, okay, yes, the Enneagram gets weaponized, right? People can weaponize it. And so we have to battle that too, where that's what I try to teach against. Like, don't weaponize it. Don't use it to think like, well, you know everything about that person, because you don't, right? Because like, I knew you were a 7, you knew I was a 9, but then we have the wings, we have our, levels of health, and we have our stress and growth, and there's subtypes, and right. And if you want to even think about tri-types, whatever, like there's like so many levels that you truly don't know everything about somebody. And, if I understand what motivates my sons, and it's like, if we can use that in the healthiest way, instead of like weaponize it. And like, I would never be like, well, you're a 3. So,
can I trust you right now?
Yeah. Like, you struggle. Do you know that you deceive yourself all the time? Right. Like something like that, which is not true. Right. And it's like, but it's to weaponize it into, I don't know, that it does happen though. And I think for me, in any of those situations, is just start digging for their why, and just find their why, and find, and disarm them, try to disarm them. Right.
Yeah.
Because they're aggressive towards it, but there's usually a reason why. What I get, and I'd love to know if you get this, is, well, I'm not that type because so-and-so's that type. And so they're like, well,
my mom was a 9, so I'm not a 9. I'm like, oh yeah, well,
I know. I'm like, or they're like, oh, I don't like that person, and they're this type, so I'm never, nope. And so even in a typing interview, you're like, I don't know where to go with that, and so it's like gently unraveling what they've learned and what they think, and then showing them healthy parts of whatever type they're kind of like against,
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. That's fantastic. And sometimes people do have, I find that people sometimes have a natural frustration with people of their own type, because it's kind of like you see through their protective layer, and so you're sensitive to that. And so then when you see this other person, like if I see a 7 who's behaving badly, I think, oh man, I tell myself, no, I don't do that. And this guy's just doing that. And is that the way like, for example, when I watch The Office, Michael Scott's a 7, and I just groan. I think, I know what he's trying to do. I see his heart, but then I see, is that how I'm coming across sometimes with people?
Right. But that's so good, right? When we ask ourselves those questions, I think for all of us, to go, oh, is that how I'm coming across? Like, what a healthy way to look at it and to continue to learn about your own type. But yeah, I agree with you. I can come across my own type also. I think I type, like I said, I coach a lot of nines, but truthfully, sometimes the things they bring to me, I'm like, well, let me know if you figure that one out. I'm like, I mean, I know the right answers and I know, like we get through it, but I'm like, oh, I totally could feel that struggle because I'm a 9. I totally get it.
Yeah. Yeah. We are healers with feet of clay ourselves for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Well, I also have a Christian background and have worked in the church for years. And how do you integrate the Enneagram with your Christian worldview?
Interesting.
What comes to mind when you think of that?
It?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess my belief system is God made us, and God made me my personality. And how do I think it could be hard sometimes, like to understand how to grow, like if you don't have Christ. And so I think they go hand in hand, but like, I don't, not everybody who I come in contact with are even Christians. Right. So,
oh yeah. Right.
And that's okay too. But I don't know. How do they go hand in hand? I just think of it as a tool to help us, especially that weakness, right? That struggle, my struggle, I bring to God. Like there are times where I'm like, I am pulled to, the mind being the sloth. I can feel it pulling me and I'm like, no, and I'll pray against it. And so I don't know. I think for me, it's, I'm a child of God first. And then I use this as a tool. And I feel really grateful that he has given this to us as a tool.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I remember something I read by Alice Freiling, the book Mirror for the Soul. And she's a 4 and an Enneagram writer. And she said, the Enneagram and the Bible tell us the same things with different words. And I thought that was an interesting way of saying that. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. And it's like, it really shows you like we need everybody. We need all types. Everybody's important. Everybody's a piece of, to me, would be the body,
Yeah. And what piece is the 9?
Well, I don't know, honestly.
And I get that response. I get that sense from 9s. I think of 9s a little bit like the mortar between all the bricks. And so they have a hard time seeing themselves because they look at all the other bricks like, oh, I see. Yeah. That person, they take up space and this person takes up space. And how come these bricks like don't work more at getting along with each other? And then the 9 comes in and like fills in this.
Yep.
And every team needs that. Obviously you could do so much more than that. But when you think about like what 9s tend to do is they tend to like bring us together and try to keep us together. And they might look at that 3 brick or that 8 brick and think, wow, they're such a go-getter. What's wrong with me? And like, yeah, but they're not necessarily thinking about how to keep us all united and harmonized.
Not all.
At all, right?
I'm like, at all. Like, that's literally all I think about all the time. And this world is extremely hard. Because I'm like, as a 9, our greatest desire is for everybody to get along, and I feel like everybody's thing would feel like this, but it's different. So for a 9, it's like, it pains me. Like I feel like pain when, there's fighting and conflict and everything, especially when, even if I'm not a part of it, I'm just watching it, I feel like, but then I know each type they feel that about them, whatever it is for them. If that makes sense. I don't know if that's making sense, but for the 9, I would love, I spend a lot of time trying to, be as like inclusive, like, right. I just want everybody to feel loved and to feel seen, no matter your beliefs, no matter everything. Like, I'm like, I want you, but maybe that comes from, that's what I would want. Right. Cause then I could be projecting a little bit too, which is probably true. Like, but that's but I have learned, here's when you were saying we're kind of like the mortar between the bricks, or we can't, because I do think like we bring people together, especially a social 9. I have definitely felt like the glue, but then I totally feel when they say about the social 9 that they don't feel a part of it. They might be the glue, but they actually hold themselves apart. I 100% do that. And I think too, the one thing I've learned is I can't fix anyone. I can't fix them.
Yeah.
I just can't. And I have been in the crosshairs because I thought I could, right? All you can do is listen. And if they want you to give anything, then you can, but you have to just let things evolve and happen, and not think that like you have all the answers or that you could fix everything, because you can't. And then you get caught in it. And then all of a sudden they're mad at you.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. You put undue pressure on yourself. And, I always think I think of every type, what we sort of chase in our average health is what we bring in our health. And, for a 9, that would be bringing that sense of being heard and understood and valued, and peace, harmony, and comfort and tranquility, and can be great harmonizers. But when things aren't going well, like, I got to get out of here and protect my own harmony and comfort. And 7s as well, when 7s can give up their chase of what's next, chasing happiness and excitement, enthusiasm, then, what do they bring? They bring happiness, enthusiasm, and, joy and inspiration, and all these things that we all chase in our average health. We sort of bring to the team, but we can't do that very well when we're just under stress. And
that's so good. I love that about 7s. And I love like what you said. You're like, if I can stop doing it, then I bring it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's like, that's going to stay with me. That's
one of the pivotal moments early on when I learned about the Enneagram was, I thought, up till this point, I've kind of had this idea, like, I want to do fun things. What's wrong with that? Do fun things. And then I realized, what if I could do all things with fun? What if I could just show up in this world and be a 7? I don't have to be a 1 or a 2 or a 3. Just own the space I'm in, listen to all the other voices to see the blind spots, and then just go do that in this world. Just go be that voice that reminds the team, hey, when you don't make happiness a priority in life, don't be surprised when you never have it.
Wow, that's so good.
Right. And I think with the 9 as well, like when you're talking to people and they seem to have no peace in their life, well, just remember, that was never your goal.
Exactly. Wow. Right. That is so true.
We can all borrow from each other a little bit better and value all of those types, like it would certainly help us to see some blind spots. Well, what else would you like to say before we're done? Anything else you'd like to say to the people out there that you think might help in any way?
Well, I will say, I have been fighting, like wanting to put this back on you the whole time. I'm like, how is it for you? Can we just talk about you? Right. It felt like we talked way too much about me. And I was like, how can we get this back on Tom?
Just there it is again, right? A little bit of the 9ness. Yeah.
A little bit of the 9ness, but I don't know. This has been wonderful. You'd reached out to me a few years ago over email, and we kind of met that way. And like you, I've watched your videos and stuff. And it was when you reached out, I was like, oh, this is so cool. We're actually going to get to know each other at a deeper level. I have this friend. He's a type 7, and he just took your Enneagram coaching certification.
Right.
So he took that. And so and he would be like, oh yeah, tell me about you. And I'm like, well, I feel like I should know him more than you. We're in this world together, like this Enneagram world. But no, other than I would love to know, like, how did you get into this space?
Yeah. Well, my background is ministry, and I was working in a church full time. And, of course, we have the Myers-Briggs and DISC and all that kind of stuff, which is all really helpful.
Yeah.
But we would have these conversations, my girls, and we have 5 kids, 4 daughters, 1 son, and so we've got almost every type in our family now. I think the only thing we're missing is a type 1 with sons-in-laws. We've got everything covered. But we would have these long talks, and Myers-Briggs was helpful, but it wasn't in DISC, but it wasn't anyway. So one day, my daughter, Grace, she went to a seminar on the Enneagram, and she's like, Dad, you need to know about this, Dad. And I thought, another personality thing. I don't know. And then at work, we were going through some chaos, and I'm like, why are people doing what they're doing? Nothing they're doing makes sense. And so I said, let me see this Enneagram thing. And you read about it, you learn about it. And I think we watched a couple of Richard Rohr's videos on it, and which was, and it just starts digging in at you, and you think, I'm not a glutton. I tell myself no all the time. It's counter 7. I tell myself no all the time. I'm not a glutton. But then I start thinking back to all these hobbies and collections, and I'm like, okay, maybe I am a glutton. And anyway, and so it really just started to dig at us, and I end up an enthusiast. I end up talking about it all the time, and I think my wife said, why don't you make a YouTube channel and focus that attention somewhere else? And I just was reading about it, learning about it, and then I needed a place to share it. And really, I found that the church is kind of, I don't even know if I'd say 50-50. Like there's always 20% of the people who say, this is so helpful. And then there's 20% of the people that says, do you have a pentagram on your shirt? No. And then everybody else in the middle is like, I don't know. I don't care. I just, and so I did try to teach it in the church a little bit, and that kind of got mixed results. And then I just thought, well, I'll just put it out there on YouTube and see what happens. And and people are interested in it for sure. Yeah.
It's interesting because, I mean, it's interesting in the church, right? It's like my church has had me come in and teach their staff, and it's been so rewarding for their staff to learn about their types and all of this stuff, and learn this language that they can understand each other. Because like they were doing DISC, right, which is super helpful, but this is just a different level. It's a motivations thing. And I remember saying my pastor is a 1, and when I started teaching it to the staff, I was like, how many of you in here think you're a 1? And half of them, or over half, raise their hand. And I was like, I hope not. We need everyone. I was like, you can't stack your team like yourself.
Right.
I was like, no, you need but the cool thing is they just wanted to be like him, right? They were like, oh yeah, that's the right thing to do. And anyways, it wasn't. But as far as the church, it's been tough at times. Like you said, the pentagram thing, I'm like, well, it can't look like and be it can't look. If it was, then I could see that argument, but it can't look like something. And it also looks like a star, right? There's just these things where you just kind of go, okay. And I just, obviously I hate conflict. Right. So I'm like, at the beginning though, I had a lot of people, not a lot, but enough, right, on my YouTube channel. And even now I have people want to save me,
Oh yeah.
Where you're like, okay.
Yeah.
But I ended up taking a class recently. Tyler Zach. Do you know who Tyler Zach is? He wrote all the devotionals, these devotionals for each type.
No, I haven't run across that.
He did an origins for the Enneagram class. And it's a Christian, and that was really, really, really helpful in understanding, what to say when things come my way, because I think it could help the church so much. I think it could help, it could help everybody, but it really could help people understand each other and not like, the thing is, it's like for us to stop projecting. Like I find so many people, myself included, right? I'd love everybody to be a peacemaker, but that's me projecting.
Right.
And so it's like, man, if we could just allow people to actually be themselves.
Yeah.
It can help. Because like everything, church is messy, life is messy, like things are messy. And this is a tool that could help, but
yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. I always tell people, like, you need to own the emoji over your head is only over your head. Like, nobody else in my house has this, like, I want to have fun and and then when I see them not doing that, I have to remember, oh yeah, they have a different, their goal isn't necessarily to always be upbeat and positive and have fun.
Right. So like,
that's my one.
Right.
That's my one. That's my desire.
Do you have any other sevens?
No. Well, we're wondering about my grandson, but it was too hard to tell yet. But no other sevens. No.
Because you said your wife's a 2. I know one of your daughters is a 9.
Right. One's a 9, an 8, a 4, and a 6 swing 7. And then my son's a 5. And then my son-in-law is a 9, and my other son-in-law is a 3.
Wow.
So the only thing we're missing is a 1. Yeah, we're just missing a 1. But sometimes I'm enough like a 1.
So your son that is a 5, how old is he?
He is 17.
17, yeah. Because my 20-year-old's a 5. So
yeah,
I get that. I will say it helped me understand him at a level that I don't think I could have. I think I could have wrecked that one. I could have wrecked him, because like, and my personality can be very overbearing to a 5. Like, because I'm like, like, I want to be in his space. And he's like, it has nothing I just can't, it's my personality. So it did help me as a mom. And then my other son is a 3. So that's the thing. Like, if I could tell even parents, like, it really, really gives us tools to understand our kids, to release them from being us, release them from wanting our own dreams and desires, release them to be themselves. Like he is a 5 and he is a 3. And we embrace that and we encourage that and we parent that. And we talk about where they go in health and where they go in stress and what that, and then I'm married to an 8. So the 5 and the 8 actually can look like each other sometimes.
Right. They have that line.
It's not a good thing. So, and then you got me, the 9, and my son is a 3. We have the line, but that line seems to work more or better. So
my wife a 2 will holler at my son a 5, that's not nice, because he'll make some comment, about something, because we're always like, 3 sentences away from talking about a mortuary or whatever, Yep. And she'll say, that's not nice. And he'll say, that was not my goal. And you have to remember, like, again, that heart thing over her head, none of us share that. So anyway, and I realized, for example, like I realized with my son, a 5, that I think he's listened through the Harry Potter series 50 times.
Makes sense.
Yeah, right. And so when he says, do you want to watch Harry Potter? He means, will you let me pause it every 5 minutes to tell you the things that you didn't know? And that's how he wants to know. Well, I mean, that's how he wants to connect.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. That is like the best thing, especially the fact that as a 7 dad, like that you get that it's honestly, I don't know if 7's the right word. Like, it's so important as parents for us to come into their world and not expect them to come into our world. That's something I've learned raising my boys, where, the 5, it was very tough to understand how to get into his world. It was like, well, how, you want to come with me to the mall, or you want to go to the movies, or no. And it took us a while to figure that out, and to figure out, like, how do we get into his world, and what is it? And that's what you're doing so brilliantly, saying like, okay, that's how he wants to connect with me right now. Guess we're doing it again. Harry Potter again.
because most people would say, oh my goodness, stop pausing the movie. Nobody cares. We don't want to know about,
Yeah.
But when you realize what's going on, it's like, okay, do you want to take your son's hand and connect with him or not?
So,
and if you do, then you do it this way. Do it the way they prefer you to do it. Or like an 8.
Yeah.
If, what is it? The pushback and the bantering,
Yeah. Where they love it. And it's not, where it can feel like to me, are you angry? To him, right. He's like, not at all, and so the Enneagrams helped us have that language of me just saying, wait, are you angry? No. Okay. And then just believing him.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well then I'm not going to worry about it because you said you're not, and you would tell me the truth anyway. So.
Right.
Yeah. That is so good. And then your type 2 wife, I would imagine cares about the Enneagram just enough.
Well, it's very useful in entering into other people's worlds and trying to connect with them in a way that's more meaningful. So yeah, absolutely. Hillary, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I hope that you guys will check out Hillary's channel, and if you're not watching her videos already, that you start watching her videos, and she's got a lot to offer. And thank you so much for being willing to do this. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tom.
All right. Take care and stay warm there in Arizona.
Yeah, you too. Winter months.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best. All right. Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye, Tom.